Hello, everyone. It's quite a late evening. Thank you so much for coming along. I wanted to introduce everyone to this space. We're calling this the sharing space, and I guess it's a kind of iteration of a few things that we've done across a few different networks of trying to create a space for people to share best practice, come together. I guess also, as well as it being about the nuts and bolts of teaching around education for sustainability and environmental education, also just about build community and for people to get to know each other and to support each other as well. And I think that's I guess something that's been really important through the last few years, and things like the Justice Network of the UK School Sustainability Network and other networks of teachers have been a really important part of helping support and I guess kind of feel not an outlier and all those sorts of things. So hopefully that's something that we can build. And of course, this is the first. We're planning a whole series of these. The idea is they're going to run monthly. We have got a few others lined up, and maybe a conversation towards the end of this chat will be maybe about ideas of what people would like to see, or people who've got ideas. I'll take a moment then just to introduce myself. My name is Paul. I'm the education lead for the Ministry of Eco-Education. I was a secondary geography teacher and then took a bit of a step to try and get more immersed into this sort of climate education and environmental education. The organisation or charity that I work for is funded by Ecotricity, and what we've done is pull together all of the free teaching materials and opportunities from the whole kind of wealth of organisations, and we've weaved it together into series of lessons and into a pathway or structure for schools to kind of make better use of it all. I think there's a sense that some schools feel like they kind of do one thing and they can't do it all, or that they're kind of committed to one initiative and they can't make use of it all. So that's something we're trying to kind of bust the myth and show that schools can make use of all of the great stuff going on. I'm going to throw it over to Jess to introduce herself and her network.
Hi, yeah, so we're pleased to meet you. I think, Tim, we've had some communications but never actually kind of met, and Libby and Fran, I don't think we've come across each other yet, so that's great. Yeah, so I run the UK School Sustainability Network. I'll put a link in the chat in a minute, and that has evolved from just a couple of schools in London, basically to bring students together who were bothered about the environment, who perhaps felt a little bit alone in their own school, so that they collaborate and develop skills and meet other students they wouldn't have otherwise met. And obviously behind that has been lots of teachers getting together as well. So the London network grew, and it's up to connections with about 30 schools now, and provided a model for other regional networks. They're all grassroots, all kind of bespoke. We're up to about a dozen regional networks now. So I have got a little map here I might show. So yeah, and we've got quite a lot of new ones setting up at the minute as well. Most of them are run by hardworking teachers of all subjects in their spare time, which, you know, we need to get away from that, obviously, and we're looking for funding and mechanisms to make that easier for them. We have got some other sort of style networks setting up. So there's one run by Chester Zoo, which is really interesting. And then with Paul, we've developed links with Northumberland Council, and we've now got our first council-led network setting up later in November. Yeah, so it's just developed organically because I guess students, teachers have felt a little bit alone on this and need to kind of join together and share resources and have some fun together as well. So the UK network then brings together reps from these different regional networks, and we went to COP26 and took over 20 of them there. We did a summer residential as well to White Woods in Oxfordshire, and we're doing some lobbying at the moment of COP27 and sent a letter off to Secretary of State for Education and King Charles, and we like to think that we got Rishi Sunak to go to COP because he got our letter at 8:30 p.m. one day and then turned up, decided to go the next morning. So yeah, I might just, Paul, if this is okay with you, I'll just flip through a few slides to give us a feel of the things that we've done. So yeah, we have a mission statement that the students have agreed. So we collaborate a lot on Teams outside of meetings and trying to meet in person now and again. So this is all from the London network that started off. They are all secondary pretty much, but there are primary things going on. Communications together, and now we're a mixture of hybrid and in person. Lobbying MPs and students being stronger together rather than just a lone voice or just their one school. And we've become a bit of a kind of venue for people like George Monbiot and Kate Rayworth and Julia Steinberger to come and talk to lots of future environmental leaders at once. And we've been trying our best to influence the Department for Education climate strategy as well. So that's a response we wrote to that. That's from the summer trip, and we're going to do another one to Wales, to the Centre for Alternative Technology next summer. I'll just sort of rattle through these. We've got, it's definitely for the students involved been really valuable, particularly for their mental health and all the skills and all the opportunities they've got to do. We've got a link tree, so that's probably the best single link where it's got everything all in one place, but the students get to do a lot of their own communications, and we've got a student doing a social media takeover at the minute. And yeah, the staff side, obviously brilliant to collaborate with Paul so that we can widen the reach and kind of so that we're probably a bit more focused on the youth side. We've also got an operations group, which is co-chaired by a chief finance officer from a Bedfordshire MAT and a deputy chief operating officer from a Somerset MAT. And they run these monthly meetings and have a team site as well and a LinkedIn group. And they are really vibrant and get loads done in that group. So that's a great group to share with any people on the operations side in your school. We've got an inset video. So I'll share the link for how to join. So we've got on one single web page how you can try and get your whole school to join, and then for teaching staff, operations staff, and then pupils. So that's what we're working on at the minute. And this is, if you have your students involved, and we've got all sorts of safeguarding and we've got a consent form, then this is the sort of things that they can get involved with, and we have students hosting all our events as well. Okay, I'll stop there.
Cool. I was going to throw in as well. So, Jess, are you throwing in your Linktree link?
I'll put my I'll put that in the chat.
I'm going to throw in a Padlet link because I guess one thing we were keen to do is also have kind of tangible outcomes. So the idea is we don't just sit here and talk. We also, there's like things that you might be able to use or things that you know of that you can share with other people that also beyond this space will be able to use. So yeah, Jess has just shared the Padlet. I'm going to drop in because it's COP27 at the moment. It's a slightly I kind of feel mixed emotions around this, and it was with COP26 as well. And I know Jess took students last year, but the kind of, as someone invested in this, it feels like there's lots of ups and downs and lots of emotions and extremes. There's a really good carbon brief link, which kind of gives a summary of what all the different countries are wanting out of this. So I'm going to throw that in the COP27 thread. I'm just going to drop in a link and put in carbon brief, and then it pops up there. And so that's something we wanted to encourage people on the call, is either around COP27, or I think if Jess refreshes, it might pop up.
Sorry,
And
you should have probably shared your screen. Yeah, there is one. Yeah,
yes.
it's really easy. You just go there and then just literally put the link there and a little title, and it does everything else.
So the password is climate action 22 exclamation mark. Did I share that in the chat? I think I did. Yes. It's all there. It should be there for you. But equally, so add anything now during the call. When we kind of focus our attention in a minute to energy, we're going to maybe focus on that one more. And also, though, please share this as a resource for other people and all those sorts of things. So, and I know there's lots of spaces like this, but this is, we're kind of pulling this together as another one, and one that's focused towards this. So I'm going to hand over now to Paula, and Paula is involved in a whole variety of different organizations and initiatives, and she's kind of speaking us today from her energy background with an organization called Energy Sparks, and she's going to give us some really tangible things that schools can do to embed energy within their curriculum.
Okay, thanks Paul, and thanks Jess for inviting me today. So one of the things I do, my main job is to work for a charity called Energy Sparks. I'm going to start sharing my screen and I'll just talk through some of the slides. Don't worry, it's not death by PowerPoint or anything, but just so some facts and figures pop up. And also this presentation will go in the Padlet. It's got some links to some of our activities that you can access afterwards as well. So can everyone see that? Slideshow? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Energy Sparks is it is quite a small charity. It's a growing charity. We started about 4 years ago, and what we're trying to do is help schools decarbonize. Now, we started really with working with helping children help their schools reduce their energy consumption, but it's grown a bit bigger than that now. Started with about 17 schools in 2017. I think, and now we've got about 540 schools across the country, and that's the high reaches of the Highlands and the dark parts of Cornwall and Wales and everywhere from Essex to everywhere else. I think we've got a spread of schools that really match the UKSSN schools. So hopefully we'll be seeing more and more of those schools working with Energy Sparks in the future. But our main thing, we can save schools money, which is really, really important right now. We can help them decarbonize, and we can teach pupils energy literacy. Not just teaching pupils energy literacy, we can also teach them about tackling climate change and empowering them and helping them build the skills to do so. So a couple of facts just to get started. You can't really find much about school carbon emissions on the internet. The most recent documents that I can find are like from 2011, but these are still quite recent, these ones. So when we think of the UK carbon emissions as a whole, as a country, 30% of them are from building operations, and that's mostly heating, electricity and things like that. Okay, now schools, thinking back to schools again, schools spend about £630 million on energy. So you think about all those carbon emissions, all that money that schools are spending as well. Unfortunately, schools spend all that money and all those emissions on heating and electricity, but 60% of that is when pupils aren't actually in the classroom. So it's when schools are closed in the evenings, schools are closed at the weekends, holidays, early morning. So the children aren't even in, but we're using that much amount of money and that much amount of energy. Now, this is something that the Department for Education is trying to address. If you've read the strategy, then as well as the state sustainability and working with schools and building a nature park across the whole country and the awards, they're looking at how schools can decarbonize. And one of the things that they have done, which has been really, really positive, is they have been promoting Energy Sparks, and they're actually one of our major funders this year, and they're helping us reach and provide a free service to schools across England. We've got other funders for schools in Wales and in Scotland as well, but the Department for Education is really helping us in England for the time being. And one of the things that they like about us is that an energy management system, and it gives schools real-time information presented in a way that even 5-year-olds can understand. And it's very friendly, very user-friendly, and really embraces children, bringing children into energy literacy. Now, I don't know if you've ever done any energy projects in the past, but it used to be going into a dark cupboard, copying down the number on the meter, putting it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then following up the next day or the next week, which isn't something that kids can do by themselves. Energy Sparks is something that anybody can have a look at. It's very easy to use. Now, I'm not going to go into the hard sell of Energy Sparks, although, you know, I think it is brilliant. What I'm just going to do today is just give you some ideas how you can tackle energy in your school. Now, obviously, if you're working for a school and you want to sign Energy Sparks up for your school, then that's brilliant. But our resources are available for all teachers and all schools, and anybody, home learners and anybody around the country as well. So that's just some of the things I want to share with you today. So we always start with the data for Energy Sparks. What we do is we get the data directly from the supplier. So we will have a contract with the energy company, electricity data will be sent to us, gas data will be sent to us as well, get solar data, everything like that as well. And the first thing that we do is try and make that understandable. So we're always starting with the data. We're always looking at, right, what is the issue here? How much electricity, how much gas is being used? And we're trying to make that understandable and relatable for kids. So for one school, you know, the amount of electricity used in a week, what does that mean? 11,000 kilowatt hours. Well, it means that if you had 16,000 smartphones, that's the amount of energy that it would use to charge that. Or thinking about the environmental impact of your school. 1 year of electricity use for a school could take 110 years, each living 40 years to absorb, which when you're starting to think about carbon footprint of schools, thinking that 1 year's electricity of a school would take that long to absorb from the atmosphere is quite eye-opening, really. This is, you know, even though you might not be signed into Energy Sparks, you can still, everyone can look at our graphs. It's great for using in and across your maths curriculum. So we will present the graphs in a very friendly way. We always have green indicating when the children are in school, blue indicating when it's a school day, but maybe the children aren't there. So evenings, weekends. Weekends are yellow, and red is holidays. Now, I could show this energy story to 5 and 6 year olds and say, you know, this is how much energy your school is using. And even children that young would be spotting, you know, that even when the school's closed, they're using an awful lot of electricity, or I think in this case it's gas. Actually, it is gas, because I was sharing this with a head teacher today. We spotted that in October, the heating went on, and the heating has stayed on even though this has been the mildest autumn we've ever had. So straight away, we're identifying action that school can take. We also do line graphs, and we also present our data in terms of pie charts as well. So any type of maths teacher, maths coordinator, if you want to use meaningful data in your statistics and your data handling lessons, then Energy Sparks is definitely the place to go, even, like I said, if you don't have a school account. Now, you might be thinking, how can I get my head teacher or deputy head to let me tackle energy in school? Well, obviously, if you've signed up to Energy Sparks, then we can give you very bespoke energy saving opportunities. We've got lots of fantastic algorithms behind the scenes that will tell this school, for example, that just by reducing how much electricity they're using in evenings, they could be saving £2,000. But even if you're not signed up to us, just working on energy will save your school money. There's no way that it won't. We haven't worked with a single school so far that has not saved money on their energy. Even if you're not tracking it like we track it, you will still be saving money. And right now, it's a very big carrot for school business leaders and head teachers. That's just another example of some of the savings that some of our schools have made. We've got terms of money, gas reduction, and then also tons of carbon dioxide saved. But I really want to spend some time talking to you about some of the things that our schools have done that might inspire you to take action with the schools that you work in or you work with. And so I'm just going to talk through a couple of case studies, and then I'll give you some examples of some of the activities that you could be using in school. So this is Saundersfoot Primary. It's one of our Pembrokeshire schools. They have been working on Energy Sparks all year. They've had artists come in, make murals. They've been working with a local energy co-op that puts solar panels in schools in South Wales. And they've really thought about how they can reduce their energy consumption in their school. one of the things that they did last year, which we have magpied this idea this year, is that they had a power down, layer up day, which means they told the whole school in advance, come in your warmest clothes on Friday. We're going to turn the heating off on Thursday evening. We're not going to put it on again until Monday. I'm going to see what difference that makes to our gas consumption. So you can see straight away, this is a regular Friday. This is power down, layer up day. We're actually asking all of our Energy Spark schools to do that this Friday. So we'll be able to collate the data and see how much kilowatt hours, how much carbon and how much money our schools have saved in a couple of weeks. But this just shows the kids at Saundersfoot, this is what their regular graph looks like. This is what their power down day looks like. These kids can go back a week after power down day and see the impact that their actions have made. And impact's really, really important. Being able to look at what you've actually done, what you've actually changed, especially when it's, you know, a whole school's energy consumption or a whole school's budget is incredibly powerful for kids. And if anything's going to get them motivated, I think being able to see the impact and the proof of what they've done is a really big thing. This is one of our other schools, Freshwood Primary School. They've been working with Energy Sparks for a while, so the children are really energy literate. They petitioned to get solar panels up on their roofs, and right now they're looking into alternative forms of energy in the Netherlands that they think might be applicable for this school too. So they have really taken on board energy literacy. They're really thinking about how they can green or decarbonize the energy in their schools. Now, one thing that they did notice is looking at their graphs over a while, they spotted that in the summer when all the freezers in the kitchen were turned off, their energy baseload dropped. Now they came back to school in September, energy use shot up again. So they decided to do a little bit of investigation. They got appliance monitors, they switched the freezers onto the appliance monitors. They tried to figure out what was wrong with one. And it turns out one of the freezers was faulty, wasn't working very well. So the pupils went to the head teacher, petitioned him, did their best persuasive writing and convinced him to get rid of that freezer and buy a new one. And even though a new freezer costs money, they installed it, they were saving a lot of electricity straight away. You can see the difference that that made. So that was very much the children using their energy analysis skills, using a little bit of investigation, trying to do some problem solving, petitioning and persuading the head teacher as well. So they were using an awful lot of fantastic skills there, and Energy Sparks projects tries to incorporate all of those. Now, even if you're not one of our schools, you can still be using some of our projects and the ideas for taking action. So we always try to start with a bit of an analysis of the data or some detective work to find out actually what the data means in the ground. So it could be a spot check, something like that, where children are going around and making sure that things are turned off, or actually counting to see how many computers are left on at break time or how many lights are on. Then we encourage them to take action. We've got lots of activities that they can do to take action. And it's also, we feel very, very important to not just be working in a silo. We want children working on Energy Sparks to bring the whole school on their energy saving journey with them. So that might be talking to the whole school in assembly, talking to parents in a newsletter, having a conversation with the caretaker or the lunch staff about how they can be reducing energy waste in the kitchen or with the school boiler, and definitely spreading the word about what they're doing, bring everyone along with them. Like I said, impact is important, but by working on Energy Sparks projects or similar projects, they are developing skills and attitudes that are even more important. Just a few of our most popular activities. So this is one, there's a hyperlink attached to the document, so you'll be able to open it up. This takes you to a lot of our starter activities, really. Each of these, you'll be able to download this, and each of these takes you to another activity. So for a school that doesn't really know where to get started with your energy efficiency, first of all, we'd suggest setting up your eco team or an energy team. Then you'd want to analyze your data. And if you're signed up to Energy Sparks, that's really easy. If you're not, then there's other ways you can go about that. We like to suggest that you set a target, because that's something to aim for. And then we encourage, and this is where the younger children really get into their own, encourage the children to be detectives. So to go around the school and see what things are being left on. We then encourage them to make a change. I'll talk about that activity in a bit. Communicate what they're doing with the whole school, and then get more people on board. And then a review and reflect is a really important part of that process as well. Not just to think about, right, what impact have we had with our data, but also what skills have we learned, what have we done really well with. These are some other projects or programs we've got. So we've got food waste, we've got our Layer Up Power Down Day this week as well. So this is the one I was talking about, that change making campaign. And I have to say, I think this is our #1 favorite activity. So we encourage pupils to identify the things in their schools that they can take responsibility for turning off. So it gives a clear sign that if something's left on and anyone can turn it off, then anyone can take that responsibility. So we suggest that they put green stickers on anything that anybody can touch. So it could be a light, usually it's lights, or maybe a whiteboard or something like that. And it says, it shows the children, shows the pupils that if there's a green sticker on it and nobody's using it, anybody can take that responsibility and turn it off. If it's a red sticker, that's usually things like ICT servers and freezers. Red basically means nobody should touch it at all. And if it's an orange sticker, it might be something like a computer screen or an interactive whiteboard that you have to check with an adult first. So you could be in the middle of your lesson and the whiteboard's still on, so you just check with your teacher and then you can turn it off. But this activity really encourages children to take a bit more responsibility about the energy that's being used and wasted around them. This is another one of our activities. Even if you're signed in, then you'll see your own school's data, but even if you're not signed in, it still takes the children through how we would look at graphs and how we would start to analyze them, which is a really good skill. And again, one that is really useful for maths. We have some timely programs as well. So we've got a Key Stage 3 and a primary school program on COP, which looks at some of the activities that tie in with thinking about climate change, really raising your voice and being heard by local politicians, things like that. One of the things that we do have is for a lot of our activities, we do provide all the resources that you need. So we're not just providing an idea, why don't you go and do a spot check? We'll actually give you the material to do that spot check. It's not, why don't you go and have a chat with your caretaker? We will actually give you a questionnaire that your pupils can use, or they can choose not to. But we'll be giving them the questions, feeding them the questions and the suggested answers that they could be using, so that both the caretaker and the children benefit from that conversation. Now, we do focus on projects that your energy team can use, but some of these are the resources that can benefit all schools, and we provide some lesson plans, worksheets, differentiated activities on these topics and more. So these are the ones that really tie in with your national curriculum objectives. So those are the ones that you might be finding on a site like Ministry of Eco-Education, or that you can slot one of these into your science lesson, or to your, I don't think any is history there, but you could be thinking about your citizenship or your local geography lessons as well. But we have a huge range of activities too. And like I said, they're accessible for anybody, even without signing in, and they're fully resourced as well, with presentations and worksheets too. That is a very, very quick run through of Energy Sparks. We do provide teacher training. We do provide several teacher training opportunities each term. We've got an induction coming up. If you're interested, then you can go to our website, energysparks.uk, come along to that and find out a little bit more. Also, if you've got any questions, then you can email me at paula.malone@energysparks.uk, and also follow us on Twitter, where we try to share the fantastic work that a lot of our students are doing and a lot of our schools are doing. So that's that, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Paula. I was thinking this is then a good chance for us to kind of almost go in a circle and go around and share stories. The one thing I was thinking though, Paula, the really important thing to emphasize is it's free for schools in England and it's funded by the DFE. So it's really kind of technically, it should just be something every school does. It feels like that's where this is going, isn't it? That it would just be something that every school gets. Like
it's free for state schools, yeah, throughout the whole country. Usually we've got about 50 places that we can offer for each local authority. There's a tiny cost. That cost is basically about £100, and that covers your we don't get it, it goes to the energy company, and we have to pay the energy company that to get the data. Yeah,
that's the thing, isn't it? The one technical thing is liaising with your energy provider to then make sure that you have access to the data is the key thing. Yeah. I was going to say, just
we do that for schools as well. So all you need to do is let us know that you want to sign up.
Your talk has made me think of loads of stuff that I did in my last school, because I was thinking, like, one of the biggest things that any school can do in terms of its carbon footprint is changing its energy provider. We ran this funny campaign where basically we found out the company that was providing energy, and it was like 7% coal was the mix in terms of the energy. And so we made a big deal about that, and basically made out that the school was funding fossil fuels. And the school got quite embarrassed and were like, okay, yeah, we're going to shift. It like got to the end of the contract, and there was a green option or whatever it was. Something else we did was, it was slightly unorthodox. I managed to get permission for 2 students to come and visit the school at midnight with me. And we ran around the school with a camera and filmed all of the lights and boards. Like literally every single board in the school was just on. TV screens as well. You know how schools have in reception stupid, super like energy inefficient TV screens, 24/7, 365 days a year. And so we made this little video that we showed in assembly. People obviously thought, you're a bit crazy, why are you running around school at midnight? But it made a point to be like, we're just, you know, school's one of these places where there's very little ownership of certain elements, and there's this thing of like, oh, we turn it on and it just gets left on, you know, like the heating. It's insane. And I guess that's the ideally the outcomes of these sorts of projects are like that stuff changes. Okay, does anyone else want to share ideas around energy, their experiences? Fran, do you want to say hello?
Oh, hello. I'm Fran. I work on the Eco Schools project in Wales, but I used to be, up until about just about a year ago, used to be a teacher, biology teacher in a secondary school with responsibility for ESDGC, as it was then, the Eco Schools programme running in my school, healthy schools, connecting classrooms, anything that didn't have a natural bracket sort of ended up with me. So energy was interesting because we were in technically a new build school, so should have been quite an opportunity really to sort of do lots of different things and to change things. There was no input from the school as to the design, and so we had building management computer system put in that we had no control over, no way of sort of, so it's really interesting to hear different stories and what's so energy is one of the areas that never did very much in my school because of this top-down approach, I suppose, where nobody was allowed to touch the computer apart from the people who'd installed it. So that's a really interesting thing, and it's then providing opportunities for young people to, like you were talking about earlier about persuasive writing and things, that those kind of, well, we can't make a change, this isn't an action we can take ourselves, so who can we bother is the word we like to use. Who can we bother to sort of to make a difference, to make a change, and why is that important? So it was quite nice sort of doing it that way. I have to say, Energy Sparks, the officer that we have for Pembrokeshire raves about Energy Sparks. We had a meeting today with a load of schools, and they were like, oh, you should sign up to Energy Sparks. You're like, nope, you're not in the right county boroughs, we can't do it yet, kind of thing. So we're just waiting for the Welsh translations and for it to go everywhere. It is definitely worth looking into. So yes, it's really interesting. Really nice to know that lots of people do lots of different things.
I think some of those translations are live now, so yeah, the website might be.
Oh, well, we had a meeting where we had 20 teachers on the call, so it was definitely mentioned. I'm emailing them all tomorrow morning, so I might update them with the fact that now there's translations there.
I was going to throw in as well, I kind of rather clumsily dumped them into the chat, but I will just share with you. There are, what are there, 10 or maybe 8 like series of lessons. So part of what we've done with the Ministry of Eco Education is pull together all of those resources. So some of those that were being talked about there, we've pulled into some of these lessons, kind of targeted towards different year groups. But here's a flavour of some of those questions, like learning inquiries that you could be using if you wanted to, just to point those out. Anyone else? Libby, any stories of energy?
Our school is starting from a low point, I would say. I think you just hit the nail on the head with the ownership issue. It's a very, very old building, about 125 years old, I think. Everything's kind of everywhere. And even before the pandemic, I'd go in and the heating is either on or off. And the doors and windows would be open before the kids arrived. And I was just gearing up to start a big project when the pandemic came along. And then everyone was told to keep windows and doors open the whole time. So I was just talking, I'm running a Planet Protectors Club at our school, and we were just talking about switch off fortnight, which I think I might be a bit late for, but I just thought we'd do it anyway. But actually, I think I'll talk to them about the Energy Sparks programme. They tend to be really enthusiastic and just say yes to everything. So I can't imagine they wouldn't be enthusiastic about it. And so I'll look into that, because yeah, it's a boiler room, no one's allowed in it, no one has any idea what's used, but then everyone's getting very stressed about the impact of cuts. And I'm there thinking, if they knew the stats, if they knew the money that was going on this, and I don't know, but I've probably got a better guess than the average person in the school, if they knew that the savings could equate probably to a member of staff, then I think they might get behind it a lot more from a staff point of view. And then I'm sort of hoping that we might be able to get the staff on board from a money saving point of view, and then the kids on board from an environmental point of view. And hopefully get some support from families. And maybe if we can get the kids on board and learning about why they should be doing it, if they then take it home, then we've got a lot of families who are really struggling. And then hopefully it will help those families in turn. So yeah, in general, I find that I come at the environmental education from kind of a different point of view. Most people I've met have come from a maybe geography or science background. So we started off by doing like Plastic Pirates show and about plastic pollution in the ocean and stuff like that. And I'm thinking about trying to get a group of choirs together to do some kind of performance. Haven't got really any further than the general idea at the moment, but we were working towards eco schools, which I loved. So we're trying to do that this year. But yeah, general mishmash. But on the energy front, we are definitely just beginning.
Just to say, Libby, your music, was that right? Yeah. So I'm a modern languages teacher, actually. Okay. And actually, across our networks, there's probably no single subject that's particularly represented. And we've got quite a lot of English teachers, drama teachers, DT teachers, as well as, yes, geography and science. And actually you should, if you're interested, we've got a sort of primary group. And I know, Paul, you work a lot with primaries as well. And there are a couple of music teachers in there. So that might be quite interesting. So, yeah, and one is deputy head of a primary in Essex, who's setting up our Essex network, and she's music. And there's I think at least 3, and I'm a musician in a past life as well. So I think definitely that sort of cross-curricular thing, there's quite a lot of that going on, which is really interesting.
Fantastic.
I've just chucked in as well, SOS for the Kids. They're Portsmouth based, they're not very far. So someone from them would definitely come and visit, and there could be something spin off from that. Have you heard of SOS for the Kids? They were on Britain's Got Talent, and they've it's a youth choir that's like Portsmouth based, but has had lots of momentum around it.
The song's quite annoying though, because they were at COP before we had students go on this panel, and they had this little ghetto blaster thing. I know it's not called that, and I was like, oh my god, that's quite an earworm, which I guess was the idea, eco earworm.
The other thing that came to mind, Paula, was lots of this feeds into the DfE strategy, and I guess that's partly why the DfE are funding lots of this, in terms of the nature parks, because the idea is the energy data will feed into the nature park bit, so that you'll be able to look and see how other schools, their energy.
Really?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
So there's the idea with the nature parks thing is that it'll be an online GIS map with all the schools across the country, and you'll be able to click on them and see data about that school.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, it may be some sort of like competition as well, in the sense that you'll be able to see how your other schools in your area are doing. Because that was also one thing I was thinking of, is that's quite useful data. Like, is Energy Sparks doing anything in terms of collating like an average school's energy use, or like per pupil or anything like that?
We are we're very good at comparing. So we try to group or we do group our schools in terms of like local authority or multi-academy trust. So we've got like one multi-academy trust, Oasis, which is schools all across the country. Otherwise we can, you know, we have Wiltshire schools, and then we have Pembrokeshire schools. So you can look at all the schools in an area or a couple of areas and compare and contrast in terms of like floor size, which is good for heating, or amount of electricity used per pupil. There's lots of ways that you can compare that to. We do have scoreboards. So for every activity that pupils do, they get points. And we've just got funding so that at the end of the year this year, we can give the schools that are at the top of their national and regional scoreboards quite a lot of money. So £750 is one of the top prizes, which will go towards energy efficiency work in the school. So that's definitely something that can motivate schools.
I think that should be the other way around. I think it should be the school that is the worst should receive most money. Maybe not.
One of the things you can do, though, all of our data is open source data. So even if you don't have an Energy Sparks login, you can go to energysparks.uk and you'll be able to see all the schools. We've got 541 schools, all the schools around the country, and you can click on each of them and find out the energy profile for those schools. So if there's a school near you that you're quite interested in, you can have a look at that too, which is good because likewise, I mean, if you're in Durham and you want to find out what other Durham schools are doing, you can look at their data, all the activities that the children have done, all the lessons that they've done are up there usually. So it's good to get inspired by what other schools are doing as well.
Does it matter, like if your school has a smart meter? Like our school is so old, like I've got no idea.
Yeah, you do have to have a smart meter or an
Okay.
But that's something that if you contact hello@energysparks.uk, that's something that they'll be able to talk through with you. It could be that if it's really, really old, you know, there's a process underway with your local authority to get that replaced anyway. So I think it's a requirement that all schools will have to have.
Okay, cool.
The Department for Education is making you, you know, take action on your carbon emissions.
Fantastic.
That's that DFE strategy thing as well, because just like you know, at households, that whole insulation movement, that's appropriate for schools as well, isn't it? And there'll be a need, Libby, with your sort of school, you're saying about retrofitting, and that there's obviously a big expense for that as well, to bring schools up to, I guess, modern standards. Tim, did you want to say anything and jump in? Or
yeah, hi everyone. Nice to be here. Thanks for that. It's been really, really interesting. I just feel like I've walked into a meeting that perhaps I shouldn't be in, but really, really nice to listen to. So yeah, thanks for letting us listen along to that. It's been brilliant. Just to introduce myself real quick, is that I put myself down as educator, but basically I'm a primary school teacher, and I've been working over in Paris for the last 10 years. And I've just relocated back to the UK. And I was working in Hayes, West London before that. And now I'm working in Hayes Primary in Bromley, southeast London. So over the course of the journey, I've had an experience of these various schools, from independent, very, very wealthy independent schools just on the outskirts of Paris, where if you think in terms of energy, I mean, their outgoings must be absolutely extortionate. You know, just made me not particularly comfortable in the place. Just the way that you know, the waste, the way things were just used without really thinking about it. And I think what we were doing is we were really passed on a message onto the children there, and I didn't feel particularly comfortable about that. So I was doing various things within the small ways that I could to be able to influence management. And then I'm finding, even since I've come back, that I'm becoming the sort of targeted as some sort of like the eco teacher, the one that wants to try and change the culture of schools. And generally I am, like most of us, just trying to bang the drum as loudly as I can wherever I am, because I feel that we can inform, obviously, through what we do, and then get them really engaged in what we do. And then that, I think it was Fran said, that we can really spill into the community through the children, into the families. So I think you can have a real knock-on effect. One thing I'm finding at the moment is just how tiring it is trying to get others on board. And the school that I'm working at is absolutely at 0 point in terms of, this idea with Energy Sparks. I think if I went along with it, I'd have to have a meeting and have to try and justify its purpose. And it's very, very difficult to try and get management on board, academies on board. But this is where my passion lies, and this is what I'm trying to do. And I feel this is where I can have the most effect. So just to be able to come in and be in this space and hear these various voices and listen to the programs, I feel like I'm in the right space to be able to go away and sort of power up not only the eco groups that I've set up, but also the communities, the teaching communities and the wider community. So
I think Sparks can be a little bit of a Trojan horse when it comes to climate action in schools, because you can totally package it as, we are going to save a lot of money, and it's really, really hard for head teachers and business managers to ignore that right now. So you can say, I want to have a look at this, want to use the data with the kids, want to see how much money we're spending. You will be saving thousands of pounds probably. So I say probably, I can't guarantee it, but it's it's a really good way to get it into schools at least. And we do have some schools and it's just the business manager that uses it, but we have other schools where the children are involved as well, and ideally that's what we want.
I feel like there's nothing that can go wrong. Like, so with the plastics thing, for example, it can be not worth the effort, or there's unintended consequences and da. Whereas this, it's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? Particularly now with energy crisis, cost of living crisis, and also I find there's so many topics you could work on, and the kids kind of go off and want to do everything, and you're like, we need to focus. So I think this is probably, maybe alongside food, maybe one of the best things. And like you said, Libby, they take it home. Paula, have you had sort of evidence of them saying, oh, we then tried that at home or something, or now we know it's not all about lights, it's actually the washing machine that has the biggest impact or whatever?
We do get kids taking it home. So during lockdown, we devised some, quite small home learning activities. So like be an energy ninja, so you can turn the thermostat down without 1 degree down without anybody noticing, or trying to investigate greener hours of electricity. And we, had a lot of kids that would go home, do that activity and then bring it back to school, and the school would record it for them as well. So yeah, we had some kids putting the stickers at home, other kids making like a little bit of a timetable when the national grid was quite high in renewables, where they could do their baking, things like that. So it's definitely something that can come home quite easily. And we do have campaigns that schools can run that do involve the whole school community.
I just wanted to jump in on something that sort of Tim was saying, that Libby, you've put in the chat as well, about that getting people on board and being that lone voice, which is it's fantastic with sort of the network and joining sort of these, that you get that reassurance that you can do these and these ideas and those what sort of other people are doing. But also remember, it can take time, and that's okay. That it might be that you're going in with one idea and one project that you do really, really well, and it could be that in 5 years' time, I was a science teacher. It took me 5 years to get my modern foreign language teacher to come up to me without any prompting and say, we've added fair trade into our sort of language lessons when we're talking about food and ordering food. We've added about reusable cups and saying no to plastic as part of their conversational French and conversational Welsh that they were doing. So, you can be a leader in this and a beacon, and it takes time for people to just come along. But it definitely happens, and it's definitely worth doing. And there's definitely loads of other people in the UK doing the same thing as you, kind of thing. And that is, and just finding those voices to help you. Like, I'm sure Energy Sparks, if you said, can you have a meeting with my head teacher, have a whole suite of things that they can sort of help to put in place to help you with the information, or getting it on your school improvement plan in some way that, you know, sort of, you're going to have to include XYZ as part of curriculum work. Once it's written down as part of that school evaluation process, it's got to happen. Otherwise, head teachers are going to look silly, aren't they? So you've got to like get in there. And saying about ninjas of pupils, but using your ninja pupils to get their voices in the meeting. Don't go to the head teacher saying, I think we should do Energy Sparks. Fred, who's head of the eco committee in school, goes to the head teacher, and they're much harder to ignore, but you've helped to prepare them in, you know, and, you know, only the kids you want to do. I'm not saying that we're forcibly using children and manipulating them in terrible ways to get this work done on our behalf. But, you know, picking and choosing your battles and who's going in to fight them is you know, a useful strategy sometimes.
And pupil voice is very important, isn't it? So, you know, all schools have kind of got to be ticking that box and letting the pupils say what they want to happen in the school. So, yeah, very true.
So I was going to throw in, so the next one that we've booked in is 15th of December, slightly earlier time, 4 till 5. We're going to try and mix up the days of the week and time so that it's flexible for people. We've got Lizzie Rushton from the Institute of Education at UCL, who's going to talk about curriculum mapping. And, you know, she's an amazing character, and I'm sure she'll have lots and lots to be able to talk about with that one as well. In terms of other topics, we're thinking of a focus on books. There's an organization called Microclimate Books that kind of has curated a whole series of books that might be useful for teachers. We have got food as one. I'm just going to jump into the spreadsheet.
While you're doing that, just to say, I think you're going to use the same Zoom link, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's always going to be the same link. Yeah. And community action is another one. That idea of focusing on how schools can be a catalyst for change in terms of their local community. Outdoor learning is another one. Now, what I would say is, you know, if there are topics or organizations you think we should platform and kind of share, please do send them through to either myself or Jess, and you know, we'll get organizing and get people together. And equally, if you've got any ideas about format, structure, how to get millions of people on this call, do shout. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you so much for coming along. Is there anything else to think of, Jess?
No, I was just trying to find the sort of tweet or something, or oh no, it's a news story. Hold on, that you can share for people to join. But yeah, please do share. I'm not sure I'm going to find it quick enough. Yeah, no, I think that's it from me. Thank you so much, Paula, as usual. It's just brilliant. Like, it's both practical and to do with the curriculum and like of its time, and yeah, just can't knock it. It's great. And you do so much other stuff as well. Paula's critical to our Avon network, I should have said. One of the mentors there. The Avon network is very vibrant. And you do lots of other stuff as well. And great to collaborate with you, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.